Welcome to the Seraphine podcast. This is such a cool moment for me because the two people that are going to be speaking to you guys today have been people that I've admired, kind of like what I feel like an audience member. And today I get to invite you into their world and into the things that they create and make Kansas City a fucking cool place to live. So today, let me introduce to you Peregrine Honig. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I'm so glad you're here.
So are we.
And the ethereal Calvin Arsenia.
Hello.
I'm so glad you guys are here. So we're in my home shooting this. So if you see them in mass, understand that let's say thank you to both of them for doing this. And also acknowledging that we are in a time where we're in boxes and we're creators. And I'd like to first introduce kind of a background with First Peregrine. So she's an artist, she's a curator, and many people in Kansas City know her as being the senior artistic director for the 18th Street Fashion Show. That's where I actually met her, and also at a gallery. I remember my husband coming in and we meeting that way. And then Calvin is a musician and a performance artist, and I can tell you it's so much more than that. It's like your five senses being flooded and feeling and experiencing what all the poor people going to Peru trying to take ayahuasca. Just go see a show with Calvin, I'm telling you. So let's get into the meat and potatoes first. Talk to me about creating in the COVID box.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right?
I mean, truly for me, it's about perspective and pivoting. And I, in this particular pandemic, with this particular year, have been able to spend a lot more time studying my instruments, studying my voice, studying my family history, the racial revolution that we are currently witnessing. I took that opportunity to learn about my family and where I come from, and I, as a creative, understanding where you come from, understanding what reality truly is, understanding history and our context and who we are inside of that history, makes us better creators. And I can't imagine being at this point in this year, in my 30th year, trying to produce new work without the knowledge that I have now. You know, I think, if there would be a silver lining, that it would be it, is that I am a much more in tune and awake and alive person in my own skin than who I was at the beginning of this year. And I'm grateful for that time.
And that's a lot to say, because the first time I ever had the Calvin Arsenia experience, I will tell you that I was rendered speechless, and I experienced something that I can't really put into words. So I really appreciate that Peregrine has kind of been a champion for you in a lot of ways. The two of you are going to be collaborating and are in the midst of, is it finishing now, the film? Or are you kind of...
We are shooting the film.
You're shooting it now.
Yeah,
all
we're
right.
in the midst of shoots, yeah.
So they're creating an experience, because again, I can't call it just a film. It's going to be called Summer in Hindsight. And right now, it's going to be presented, I guess it's by the Film Society, right, in Kansas City, which is incredible. And it's going to be on October 16th at the Boulevard Drive-in. And they're debuting the director's cut. And again, it's called Summer in Hindsight. And Calvin and Peregrine are creating what I'm very excited to, I mean, you're an artist, and it has been confirmed that you have had some masterpieces in people's eyes, because Peregrine has been in the Whitney Museum of Art. Her collection is there. It's permanent. It's not just a showing. It's a permanent collection. Chicago Art Institute, the New York Public Library, and Blue Gallery on the Boulevard. You can experience her art. So talk to me about how this brainchild came about, because this is ambitious to do right now.
Well, similarly with Calvin, it's a time of introspective behavior.
Yeah.
So I feel similarly in going back in time and revisiting the formal nature of what you make, because things are simplified. Mm-hmm. There are less distractions if you can put your phone down, and more distractions if you see what's going on politically. Mm-hmm. So this is the 20th year of the West 18th Street Fashion Show, and I have such a great board. It's just a collection of very intelligent and intuitive people, and that includes Calvin as of last year. And it's this moment where both Calvin and I have this way of thinking about the generosity of art, that there's something to be said for something that feels inclusive and exclusive at the same time, that you're having a very personal experience in a public space. And yes, we are wearing masks because we're accountable for 30 different people a day for the next 10 days. And we are taking it extremely seriously. So to make artwork when there is so much going on, we took so much time to get back to each other, but the way that we got back to each other with the West 18th Street Fashion Show was something to do, because there are a lot of suicides happening, and everything that's sweet and everything that's salty is just so amplified that, especially for those of us who are creatives and empathetic, it's just and that's in all fields: doctors, mothers, mm-hmm. fathers, people staying at home with their children. Mm-hmm. Everything is just so amplified right now, and I think we really take pride in giving people something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, because art really is everything. And it's the thing that people are the most self-conscious, like, oh, I don't know anything about art. I don't know anything about music. But we all know everything about everything.
Yes.
Right? So the fact that the museums are on board with us and are opening up their doors because there's no one in their spaces, the Nerman, the Nelson, the Twain Miniature Museum, the Jazz Museum, we've taken tours of the botanical gardens. Like, I'm not going to give it all away, but I have to say we have such a great city. The restaurants that are feeding us, because we're all tight, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's tight. So the fact that even if a restaurant that's worked with us before, like Tannin or Mildred's or Pollo, can't just donate food, they're like, well, can we do it at cost? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, like we don't have a $10,000 budget for catering here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we do have social media, we do have sponsorship, we can say your name, and we have cultural, we've talked about this, we have cultural capital, you know?
Well, and I have to say, capital needs to have a different currency. I know that we're in a capitalist country. We have to have an exchange of energy. It's healthy to some extent. Mm-hmm. I'm learning more and more about how the confusion of communism and we can go into a whole conversation about that. But what I find is really interesting is that when you're talking about cultural capital, emotional capital, spiritual capital, these are things where I think the influencers of the world need to understand it's about having impact and a lasting impact. And money comes, we all know that, and money does go. So the beauty of what you're creating is, number one, an experience for us all to watch, for the participants, such as yourself, to create, to bring people together, to remind ourselves of the human condition, and that's connection. So I'd like to go a little further about like the collaboration, the vision, what you're hoping to bring into the world of the viewer when they see Summer in Hindsight?
Well, I think first
And
and
here.
foremost, we have always seen eye to eye about the fact that just because we are based in the Midwest doesn't mean that our work has to be crap
Right?
Or stuck.
or stuck.
Yes.
Because we both have been able to be a part of international conversations. Myself, quite small, I think, but the point is that when you have the internet, everything you do is global. Every single thing that you do is global. And so how can we make work that lifts us and has us amongst our actual peers, which are just other people who are doing what they love to do in Hollywood, New York City, Paris. Those people are not better than us.
No.
And so our work should not be less than theirs.
Yes.
And this is what we are trying to accomplish with this fashion show and with this movie, is that because things are made here or designed by people who live here does not mean that it should be cheap or tossable, right? So I think that's first and foremost, is that we want to provide the worthy frame of these garments and these designers.
And the amazing thing about this year is that for as long as we can been able to pull off a 100-foot runway on a one-way city street, this is the year that we have a product. We have something.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's starting in a drive-in could not be more Midwestern, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a drive-in.
Totally.
And it's not a drive-in pretending to be a drive-in.
No, it's a legit.
Yeah, it's a legit drive-in. And we have it spaced so that it's COVID friendly or COVID safe, not friendly.
Yeah, I know. I know, right?
Not safe friendly. It's not friendly.
You're
COVID.
talking to the woman who had the spread love. I was like, I looked at my event planners. I'm like, spread love, spread COVID, and then all white party. 2 event planners, by the way, who are African American.
Right.
And I was like, I'm spreading COVID and I'm a racist. Yay for that. And I'm in the Midwest. So yeah, I feel you with the COVID friendly.
So it's COVID unfriendly.
Yes.
COVID conscious.
We'll be spreading cars further apart. So there's a parking spot between each car.
Yeah.
So we have limited seating. We have our tickets on Eventbrite, and they are all the way from free, which is our mantra with the West 18th Street Fashion Show. If you get there early,
Yeah.
you put your little hooves in the ground,
Yeah.
then great. And then up into 500, and that's 4 people to a car.
Yeah.
Bring your pod, and the irony that we have had our swag bags completed since January is not lost on me. But they are very cool.
I love that. I love it. I have to backtrack a little bit. You just spoke, and I'm going to get choked up really eloquently to cheapening where we're from and being someone who's lived on both coasts and prided myself that I lived in LA for 7 or 8 years. And I lived in New York, and I even tried Australia, and I was embarrassed to return home at 38 years old because I thought I failed. And I flourished here. Thank you for reminding me that. You're touching my heart because what I love is that you play an instrument that in every regard, if you know the harp, it is a sign of the elite. It's huge. It's massive.
Super expensive and super heavy.
Right. and it represents wealth, and it represents being untouchable. And
Yep.
oh my God, when I hear you sing, your voice touches me. Every single note, the reverb of every chord echoes. Thank you for playing the fucking harp in the Midwest and not turning your back on us as a culture, because Kansas City, we've got it. We've got a lot of incredible people.
Yeah.
And these are 2 people who I believe in every fiber of my being. You've reminded me that I am not a failure. I'm not an imposter. I am trying to create my own world. So thank you for that. And I want to know how you 2 keep it going, where you don't go, oh.
Failing and being imposters.
I absolutely love that those words came out of her mouth. I love it. Can either one of you, I mean, I don't want to bring us down because I want to bring us up, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the moments where you were like, what the fuck am I doing? Failure. An example of that. All right. Seriously, Jesus. And either one of you want, it's hard to imagine you failing.
I mean, well, here's maybe the failure would be any moment where I've either allowed myself to be pushed into being inauthentic, or when I have convinced myself that being inauthentic was better. And I think that those are the moments that I feel the most failure. But even then, understanding, using that failure as the university of life.
Yeah. Leverage.
And yeah. I mean, like my in some senses, like living in self-hatred as somebody who was a missionary and working in the Christian ministry, I was failing then. Because I turned my back against myself and lots of other people, and I was living in complete cognitive dissonance, and every day was painful, but having gone through that experience and changing my actions, ironically enough, repenting of my religious behavior, because the word repent in the Hebrew, it means to about face, so just.
I actually like that better because repent sometimes feels like shame to me.
Absolutely, but the actual, like, it's an action.
Yeah,
But
it's
a military term.
Yeah,
to about face.
Yeah.
So I turned my back on self-hatred.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that I never question now because I've been through the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I won't do that again. I learned.
Yeah.
So even if you fail, and even make a habit of failing, when you turn and you take those lessons, you are rich then.
Yeah.
You're a success.
You know, one of my favorite films, one of my favorite directors is Richard Linklater. And, he's this country guy I think he's still in Nashville, Tennessee. But anyway, he did these movies called The Befores, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. And there's his first film really echoed in me, and it's these two people who meet each other on a train in Europe, and the guy asks the girl, Ethan Hawke, to Julie Delpy, a French actress. He's like, "Let's get off in Australia and let's just like keep going, have a conversation going." And one of my favorite lines in the movie is that it's all in the attempt. Mm-hmm. It's all in the attempt. Mm-hmm. And that sense of like greatness or like getting closer to God in some way, right? When we create art, it's this thing in us, right? Mm-hmm. They make this commentary, this line in the movie about it's the energy and the connection between two people, that's God. Mm-hmm. And that's the reminder that you need that and in the attempt. So going to you on the failure part, because I mean, it's hard to look you in the eye and be like, have you had failure? Because you handle it with a lot of grace, and I don't see it.
There's always somebody who's doing better and making better work than you.
Yeah.
And I take pride in accusing friends and surrounding myself with people that are better. That I want to be like. Mm-hmm. I have no ability to play the harp or the banjo or I'm not a musician. But I'm also, there are so many people that are such great artists in the city, and it's just nice to know that, yes, I've lived in big cities and there's just so much talent all over the world. In terms of this idea, like in terms of like a cinematic quote, there's this great quote in Wings of Desire, which is my favorite movie, which is, "When the child was a child, it did not know it was a child." And when you are an artist, or a creative, you're just kind of born that way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you don't know what you are until you're like, I call myself an artist because that's the word that's closest to how I can identify myself. And same with you, like you're a musician because that's the closest word.
Yeah, requires the least explanation.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are both in an effort in this lifetime, him with the harp, and a lot of my aesthetic is it kind of draws you in and you think you're about to experience one thing and then you experience something very different.
Yeah.
And so when we started this project, it was about the Bauhaus. I just finished college, which is hilarious. Speaking of failure, who gets a degree during a pandemic? Like I don't get to graduate. I have like a cap and gown that went directly into the costume closet. Right.
Yeah.
But it was the Bauhaus, which just failed so beautifully so many times and just brought so much to design and so much to the idea of beautiful and necessary things being accessible to everyone. And so when we started the West 18th Street Fashion Show theme, we started with that, the idea of accessibility, right? And so here we were like researching the triadic ballet and weird Germanic music and all of these things. And if you look at something like Oscar Schlemmer or Walter Gropius and how they accommodated the people that they loved and respected through failure. I mean, you look at people like Frida Kahlo, you look at people like Nina Simone, you look at all of these people that are powerful failures. They tried and they tried and they tried and they just kept evolving. And in the end, I would rather be like infamous than famous.
Yeah.
Yes? Like I would rather be a wonderful story than like a lot of wealth and a lot of encumbered shit, right? I would rather be well, and I would rather, if I do make, I know about both of us, if you give us money, we're probably going to go into debt because
right. God, we're not wise investments. Let me tell you, my husband would agree with you that I'm about the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think we operate with a different currency.
Yeah. Totally.
It's not about, because we were talking a little bit earlier about like money and about the exchange of money. And yes, it's important, but it's more about energy.
Yes. Yeah.
And that money is a construct of humanity.
Yeah.
It is not spiritual, and it is not like ecology,
No.
And I really love to look at nature to see how they exchange energy.
Yes.
How all of that exchanges energy and resource, and that death becomes life.
Yeah.
Every time. And so like it's not always about having money. I just want to eat every day.
Really well.
Totally. Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing is that I've been so in conflict about doing this podcast, right? Because initially the brainchild came very selfishly. I was sharing with you guys about my diaries and the suppressed, like, I don't know if it's trauma, memories, whatever. In the end, I love my family. My husband is a wonderful man. But this podcast came about, and I thought to myself, okay, like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna create this, and then, I did it with this sense of like, I'm going to talk about people bettering themselves, and they're excellent in their field, but what are they doing to make better? Or can they educate us about something that maybe we don't know, or demystify things that have a lot of terrible things associated with it? And then I realized that I'm putting myself out here for people to listen to, and I'm curating people's stories essentially by asking questions. And the currency is that there's this moment where I get to give someone 45, 50 minutes of a time capsule of their life. And I have a responsibility to where when someone hits play on this, that they will play back and they will see you and you, and they will look up your film. And I want to do it justice. But it's really hard to sit in my vulnerability and have that sense of judgment and be like, well, I still need sponsors for a podcast because money doesn't go everywhere, and can I fund it forever? And it's like this dance of like dancing with the devil, and then also being truthful about like, all I want to do is be better. And I keep saying it to my husband. I go, we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be better.
Yeah.
And trying to get that message across.
Progress, not perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it's so hard for the ADHD, like OCD person in me. So let's talk a little bit more about the film and just about what you want to talk about, because I'm so curious, but I also don't want to give anything away.
So Calvin is the main character in this movie. So you're going to see a lot of Calvin.
Oh boy.
Get ready. We're going to lower some doorways.
And I kind of love that you can't see his face. If you've never seen him, it's like a tease. I like it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's, again, this sort of thing of missing out on so many things. And so taking the amazing designers that we're working with 11 designers. 2 of them are from New Orleans. 1 of them is coming in from Miami. And they are they're amazing. I mean, I can't even tell you. They've had more time to work. They've had more time to think. And every designer is assigned a room, a space. And Calvin is making music for them. Some of it is original. Mike Dillon is doing some of the soundtracks. So we have 2 international musicians that are only in town because there's a pandemic.
Yeah.
We have the best makeup artists because there's no weddings.
Yeah.
We have museums because museums are not open.
Wow.
We have hair because people are not going to get their hair done.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like this, lemons into lemonade. It's more like lemons into lemon meringue pie with a side of champagne. Like,
yeah. No kidding, right? Wow. That is the best. I'm going to use that. I'm so using that. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh.
And I always say, like, my friend Jerry Salter says that art is the ability to turn material into thought. And so that's sound, that's storytelling, that's material, art supplies, pigment, blah, blah, blah. And so we're just sort of taking this cultural and racial revolution and awareness, which is amplified by the fact that people are actually home and still and afraid because they are becoming more aware of what is functional and dysfunctional in the most intimate way and in the most global way every morning. So here we have a movie that we can talk directly about these feelings without a lot of words. Mm-hmm. And then we can make this thing and we can finish it with the designers and the models seeing themselves on the screen at the drive-in and then bring it together and hopefully make this story accessible all over the world.
I love that because it is almost like a 5 senses meditation on film of art, because we are told so much how to feel and what we feel is wrong, or it should be this way or that way, and almost manipulating our own reactions. And that's why I love to experience someone like your work and your work, where it's like, all right, you're not preaching at me through your art forms.
It's an invitation.
Yeah.
Completely. So was it hard, or was it challenging, or was it just easy, or did it just flow to create music in this kind of interesting situation, paradigm, whatever you want to say, and also the sense of responsibility because you two are friends, and to the other artists. How did you create your music?
I want to say what music?
Yeah. We just started filming yesterday.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
you're in
Music's
the
not done
midst
yet.
of it.
But I will tell you that I've
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
I mean, with my shows and who I am as an artist, I always first book the venue. I book the venue many months out, and then I think about what do I want it to look like. And then after I kind of get a scheme of what I want the visuals to look like and what I want it to feel like as an audience member sitting in the room, then I curate the playlist or the set list or the music, but it's always the venue first, right? So now we have 11 or 9 different venues.
That's so funny because that's how I started this project. I booked the Boulevard Drive-in.
So you're all about you're about manifesting.
Yeah.
Like the
100%. Yeah.
There is no music yet.
Yeah.
But there will be.
Yeah. And we just got our DP like 4 days ago. Like we're working with Jeremy Osborne. He's amazing. In Katam Jabbar. It's just like everything is flowing. We shot at the Kansas City Museum, and it was incredible. I mean, one of my favorite days of work of my entire life. Like, and I work a lot of days. So
I mean, you guys must be descended from jazz musicians because I'm telling you, I mean, the bravery, number one, and the trust and the mastery of the instrument of you being, I mean, your art, I know that we don't want to be like, we're masters of our art, but in some ways, you know, we're every day.
Well, and it's calculated risks.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, incrementally, we've been doing things our entire lives that are more risky than the last thing.
Yeah.
And this feels like an appropriate risk for where we're both at in our careers.
Yeah.
I love it because it is almost daring each other to be great.
I dare you to be great.
I dare you.
I mean, it's kind of great.
Double dog.
I mean, it's so cool because I mean, I'm literally just finding this out now. So for me, I'm such a control freak, and I'm loving the fact that like you guys are rattling my cage now because I'm actually really good off the cuff if I just let myself go, right?
Yeah.
But because I've had trauma or bad experiences, I have all these like preconceived notions of like this, I've got to know. So to be perfectly honest, every time I've been in exchange with the two of them, I've always been slightly enamored because I feel that, I think more it's not about like, you know, when people go, oh my gosh, I have so much respect for you, I love your, it's literally like, I just feel your energy and I know I've got it in me. So then when I feel it stirred in me by someone, I question it because a lot of time, because I've been told my whole life, bring that energy down, be practical, be safe.
Yeah, diminish yourself.
You know, and then you come into this like, well, maybe she doesn't like me because I said to her, I go, you know, every time we see each other, you reintroduce yourself like you don't know me. And she goes, well, I do it because I'm polite. That's what you do. You know, you don't make assumptions. You know, you just.
And my name is hard.
Yeah, I love it, and mine is too, Seraphine. So, Peregrine. That's the other thing I do that I'm realizing. Just say it and stumble on it. Yeah. The name, just say it. A lot of times we mute ourselves halfway through and like fade out. So to get back to my rambling, which I told you I wasn't going to do, is I didn't know. I just learned now that the film isn't complete. I'm realizing
by no stretch of the imagination.
And I am.
We are on our day off with you.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Yeah.
No wonder. Because the other thing is like, why is she so hard to schedule? And I'm like, because you're creating.
We're making this film.
We're making a movie. Yeah.
But it's also, I think, really important to us to be relevant.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, some of this too is like, I'm thinking, okay, people have bought a ticket. They're sitting in a car. They've got snacks. They're all dressed up with their 4 people in the car. Yeah. What do they need on October 16th?
Which makes so much sense because we're in such a volatile situation now and we don't know what's going to happen.
November's around the corner. You know what I mean? And we have things to say.
Have you thought about putting dates on the days that you create? Almost like a diary? Because that's the other thing I'd be really curious about.
I'm writing every day.
You are.
Like we have the script, like I have the script complete, but then every morning I wake up really, really early at like 4:30. And then I write out more specifically something more personal about the designer, about their collection, about where we're filming.
Yeah.
So that I can give something to the DP, to the director, to the people in the room so that everybody can make something without a lot of words.
I love that. Oh, and that's so great because you're calling to their authenticity of the day of what they're bringing. And I feel like it's maverick. It's a little maverick what the two of you are doing, because it is about surrendering and not control.
Yeah, oh God. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Like, that's the truth. It's just, you have to give up.
So it's learning how to fall.
Yeah. Like when you said stepping back, like what happens when you step back too many times is you just fall backwards.
Yeah.
Like I would have rather fall forward.
Yeah.
On my face.
I fucking love it. God. It's weird because I'm sitting here and there's so many questions I want to ask and there's so many things I want to talk about, but I also, I don't know, I also want to hold the space for you too, because there's so, I don't get to do this often with people that fill my tank. So there's a little bit of a selfishness in me where I'm like, fill my tank, because I felt so depleted. Like, again, putting yourself out there is a risk. And every day, I think the beauty of you saying that you've got about 30 people working on this with you each day about?
New people every day. I mean, so there's a base group of people, but because...
Which is like 3 or 4.
Yeah. So there's a base...
And then there's models and makeup, and those are different people.
That's so cool, because that's the other thing I was going to ask you, and I ask a lot on my podcast, is these days when we are so drained emotionally and our cup is not runneth over, how do you fill your tank? And it sounds like you kind of figured it out a little bit with this new energy and stirring.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like I left that set, like I was so relaxed. I was so happy. I had to make I was a little bit like freaked out with one situation, and I called that person and I was like, hey, sorry if I was stressed out. But everything else, but even to have the space in your brain, like, oh, everything went really well except for this one moment. Like, let me tap this person and say like, hey, sorry about the miscommunication. And they were like, oh, wow, thanks for apologizing. You didn't need to, but still just to also remain like polite and sensitive and calm. And because you're working with a new group of people every day, you don't know what is going to trigger somebody or what their sensitivity is. And it's really easy to just start like moving forward at a very specific pace. And we talked about this after the first day, like, well, that was easy. Like, let's hope it's as easy every day.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
No, you don't. You don't. And the days where that it depletes you and you want to go back into your COVID box and go, why the hell did I take on this Goliath?
Yeah.
That's the reason why I did this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many days I just have like, what's the fucking point? I'm going to shut the door, screw it, people suck. And I'm like, oh, the poison I just put out into the freaking world. And now I'm like, all right, no. So for people to follow this, because for me now I'm like, you've invoked the spirit of me. You may not be in the Baptist church, but you have put the spirit back in Seraphine and the fiend in me. So with that being said, how can people follow the process and journey without, obviously, because we want everyone to go and watch this piece of art, but also draw a little inspiration that something's being created as they speak to? Is there places in the social universe where they can see where you're creating this?
Our Instagrams will have little teasers. The West 18th Street Fashion Show, both Facebook and Instagram. We have April Dion is our marketing and communication. So we have a lot of interviews that are set up in the next 9 days. Not us, because it has to be other people. But I think, we have KCUR? Like, we have a lot of little audio things that'll be sprinkled throughout the next couple of months. And, we're doing our best to just let everybody know about it. Mainly, the tickets will pay for our DP and our food and our insurance and our...
Yeah, insurance.
And the production of the film.
Yeah, the production of the film.
That's the best way, I think, is... I mean, all of our social medias, each of the designers have social media, if you're curious about their work and want to see, because they're posting little things
definitely.
too.
And there will be surprises if you buy a ticket that are within the infrastructure of having bought a ticket.
I love that.
Which I'm...
Like little love letters?
Sort
maybe?
of.
Yeah, a lot like that.
A lot like that.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm just going to tell you guys right off the bat, I'm going to try and crank this out
Please.
onto my podcast as soon as possible. And the other thing I'd like to do, just because I have you guys here, is as artists in this time of social upheaval, of COVID, being creators in what a lot of people would think is kind of an ashen, like dead space. Can you just speak to the people who are watching this? I don't know if it's advice. I don't know if it's words of wisdom, or just whatever the calling, the spirit's got you.
Well, I want you to continue with that mental picture that you just painted about having an ashen dead space, and I'm thinking about the fires in California, and I'm thinking about fires that I've witnessed in Colorado and in Alaska as well over the last couple of years, and then looking out over the smolder and the smoke and having the ashes come out of the sky, and I want to fast forward after the things have cooled down, and you see how immensely fertile that earth is, and that this is a natural process that the earth goes through. That not every fire is started by campfires gone awry, but electricity out of clouds happens.
Yeah.
That this is a natural progression of this planet. That death is not something that we should be afraid of. That chaos and is a symptom of us actually growing and getting better. We've needed to reconcile a lot of these issues since before this country began. This country was founded on the principle that you can own another person's body, and if we don't realize that, then it's time to realize that, and that we have the ability now, because of a pandemic, to acknowledge that, to not fester in anger, but to make a plan, to choose to bring life out of that ashen desert, out of that death, because the soil is fertile and it's time to plant.
When I say I don't have words, you render me speechless. You pretty much kind of said it all, and you touch me in very many ways, not just through your music and just through those beautiful words. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Kind of love it that you closed your eyes and just kind of took us to that space.
Yeah.
I wish more people would take pause and feel like that.
We have a chance, so we need to take it.
We're in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a hard act to follow. I don't know if I, when I'm saying, hey, do you have any? But I think, I'd like to hear from you as well.
I think it's really important for us to put our phones down. And in sort of a branch of what Calvin is saying is to just not compare ourselves to other people, and really write love letters to ourselves and write love letters to the people who are not going to come out of this because of healthcare and mental unwellness, and just forgiving ourselves right now is really important, and forgiving the people around us, and just taking the time to breathe and try in this moment where we are all becoming more aware of our situations, to not be self-protective and resistant, and
He's not resistant. He was picking up on. It was so funny that you're moving and you're undulating.
Yeah.
And I was in movement therapy for a while, and all of a sudden I was like, "Woo!" And then he picked up on. He's like, "I'm gonna snort it. I'm gonna go with that."
You know, there's a lot of people that are in the program that are like that have a hard time with, or are not in it, but are struggling with drinking or taking drugs or just over medicating in one way or another. And so I would say, like, even if it's scary or even if you don't think it's your place, if you see someone who is like suffering, even if it makes you uncomfortable, if you're just like suffering a little bit less on that day, I would say to just like send them a text, like tell them a joke, like do something, because it's really easy in this time to feel disconnected.
Yeah. Oh. So as we close this, I want to express to you my gratitude that you both came and supported my endeavor and trusted me with sharing your story. I think I have a little bit of artist in me as well, hopefully in the art of communication and storytelling. If all I can do today is just have a few more people know about the beautiful things that you do and create, please know that I will be your loudest advocate for it, because what you two have brought into my world has been nothing but good. So thank you both so much for being here. And before I get off the microphone, I do always want to take pause and ask if there is any last thoughts, feelings, if you want to share any, where you can find you at, but anything else.
We need a new America. And what does that look like? It looks like the face in the mirror. And if you want to support or stay connected to either of us, you can find us by our names.
Yes.
And we're on a mission to make a better world.
I can feel it from both of you, and I am so glad that you are here today. Thank you for sharing your journey with me, because it's not over yet, people. So October 16th at the Boulevard Drive-in, you can get tickets at Eventbrite. Please go. And please, if you're going to look at anything on your phone, take a look at what these two are doing, and maybe it'll inspire you to then get off your phone and maybe create and do something on your own. As always, I keep forgetting sometimes about why I did this. So if you liked what you heard today, you felt something, can you subscribe? Because I only have like 30 subscribers right now. And like it and support people who are putting themselves out there, because we're going to keep doing it, and hopefully you will too, and join us. Thank you.